I bought this engine from a junkyard during an online auction so that we could tear it apart completely and rebuild it from the bottom up in my new series, Down the Block and Back. Most of you are probably coming over from my Instagram page where for the past year I've posted educational videos and gained a following of just under 30,000 and accumulated over 30 million plays. The footage currently on screen is what I've posted on Instagram, sped up by 1,500 times, but now that you guys are all caught up, let's jump right into it. I'm Frank Maurice, and this is Ratchet and Frank TV. With my introduction out of the way, now we could finally talk about the 1.5-ton motor that's sitting in the center of my workshop. Now this MP7 is part of a pretty big family. It has two older brothers, the MP8 and the MP10, as well as two cousins, the D11 and the D13. And what I mean by that is this motor is literally a Volvo D11 rebranded as a Mack engine. And an MP8, you guessed it, is a D13. Every model engine I just listed will come pre-packaged with the cooled EGR system that's controlled by the electronic valve, as well as a Hulset variable geometry turbocharger. All of the engines in this family follow a similar concept of a single-piece cylinder head and an overhead camshaft that drives it. Most of the newer engines incorporate a common rail fuel system. However, this engine still uses the older fuel system with 6-unit injectors that rely on a signal from the ECM and the function of the camshaft in order to dose each cylinder with the proper amount of fuel. Each MP7 is equipped standard with a compression brake that works by opening the exhaust valves during the compression stroke, which generates an overpressure condition in the combustion chamber, which will in turn exert a braking effect on the crankshaft. This is not the same thing as a Mack power leash. All of these engines also come standard with the Repto, or rear engine power takeoff ready port. However, it's worth noting, I'm not actually sure if you would be able to turn the PTO off unless you had something in between it, because that's driven directly off the timing gear train. The engine uses wet cylinder liners and one-piece pistons known as monosteel. Wet cylinder liners simply means that coolant makes contact with the liner inside of the block. All of the rings inside of this engine are also coated using a process called physical vapor deposition. And while that may sound extremely complex, it pretty much only means that we're going to use a vacuum to lay a very thin layer of something on top of something else. Now, if you still don't know what you're looking at, don't worry, because we're going to get into everything in a lot more detail as the season goes on. But for now, I want to tell you guys about this motor. Now, I had never seen it in person, I'd only seen it in pictures. However, the pictures were pretty high quality nonetheless, and I noticed immediately there was a lot of original components on the engine, like the zip ties all over the fuel lines. Those are original Mack Red zip ties. The P-clamps are all painted the original Mack Red. The overflow valve is still painted Mack Red. This tells us a couple of things. The first thing being the most important is that nobody ever diagnosed the fuel system. The second thing that it tells us is that nobody stripped the engine for parts, or at least most of the parts still remain. And if most of the parts still remain, that tells me that somebody out there thought that this engine could run again. Now, I would be lying to you if I told you I did not already know the condition of this engine, and that's because on my Instagram, we removed the valve cover and inspected the entire valve train for mechanical failure, and then after that, we removed the oil pan and inspected 2 of the rod caps as well as 2 of the main bearings. I wish I could have recorded it and posted it here, however, I did not have this awesome new camera yet, but don't worry, I will never make that mistake again. Now that we're all at the same starting line, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube and follow my Instagram page. Instagram will continue to receive videos that are up to 90 seconds maximum, while YouTube will get videos that are up to 7 minutes in length, and they go into a lot more detail. I plan on doing a lot of really cool stuff here for YouTube in the coming months, and I think you guys are really gonna like it. Thank you all so much for watching. I will see you next time on Ratchet and Frank TV.